Hey friends, welcome to Huge Head Studio. My name is Robbie and I like to sculpt and paint. And this week I'm testing my limits with an original character I'm calling the Beast of Black Friday. In the spirit of the upcoming holiday season, I want to capture the true meaning of everyone's favorite November holiday. No, I don't mean Thanksgiving, I mean Black Friday, the yearly celebration of capitalism, caffeine, and moms and grandmas throwing elbows for air fryers. To honor this classic tradition, I decided to document one of nature's most elusive creatures. It emerges only once a year, usually near a Walmart, and survives entirely on doorbuster deals and screaming at retail employees. We call her the Beast of Black Friday, the final evolution of all Karens. We start by building our beast out of armature wire, aluminum foil, and whatever random junk was within reach. I'm sure there are better, more official ways to do this, but this is my first time making something with more than just a head, so we're winging it as hard as we can and hoping nothing explodes along the way. We gradually build up the body of our beast, which is just absolutely yoked. And while sculpting this physique, I was thinking about that episode of Powerpuff Girls where the escaped convicts become the Power Bluffs. Yeah, I had that look in mind, just bigger and buffer. So I slap on some ridiculously oversized muscles and then carve them down a bit, trying to make them look chiseled, but still absurdly beefy. Honestly, this is pretty much what I look like when I'm dehydrated. I sure did learn a lot on this project, and there are a few things I would probably do differently, the hands being a big one. Cosplay probably would have made life easier, but all I have is Sculpey, which can be less forgiving. So I was a little scared that the fingers would crack off if I didn't use an armature skeleton, and working around the wires was a nightmare, but somehow it all stuck together and now it's nice and sturdy, so that's a win. After adding some knuckles and other little details like folds and wrinkles to the fingers, in my opinion it actually passes as a hand, so... After the hand is complete, we give it a bake to lock in our progress and change the armature wire at the feet to make it a bit more sturdy, as it's becoming clear that this beast is going to be top heavy. While one hand is lunging for the throat of anyone who dares to look at the same deal, the other has a death grip on a pumpkin spice latte. So we use a brush handle to rough out the armature wire for the fingers, then jump straight into making a coffee cup out of paper. Because of course, I have a mountain of polymer-clay in front of me that I'm using for literally everything else, but for some reason I decided the cup should be made of paper. I mean though, like why the hell would you work smarter when you can always work harder? Well, either way, it seems to have worked out in the end, and it fits nice and snug in this little T800 hand, so I guess we're killing it. After bulking up her arms some more by adding a few more muscles here and there, we arrive at her chest, which we will handle with extreme artistic maturity. We're going to dress her in a t-shirt, so after smoothing out the basic build of her chest, I patch in a few of the empty areas to make the chest look like it's hiding under fabric. After that, it's time to pump up the quads and calves a little bit because our beast can power walk like nobody's business. Next up is her feet, because a top-heavy Black Friday monster like this deserves a stable foundation, so we're going to do so with some tiny little piggies. I thought about dressing her in boots, or high heels, or maybe even Crocs, but ultimately I went with some fuzzy house slippers, because like every Beast of Black Friday I've ever known, it's her world and we're all just living in it. So if she wants to stop around in crowds with some fuzzy slippers, well, she's gonna do it. I repeat the process on the other foot, making sure the slipper looks just as good and fuzzy. Then it's onto her cheeks. We spread them out evenly and then use our little blender tool to just really get in there and smooth everything out. Next, it's time to make her shirt look like a shirt. So we slap on a strip of clay and then blend it in to make it look nice and even. After that, we add a few lines to suggest the hem, and then do the same on the arm because, you know, some shirts have sleeves. This one sure does. Then we pretend to work on the wrinkles of the shirt because I failed to hit the record button while I was actually sculpting them, and then we sit back and admire our progress for a moment before magically poofing the remaining hand into existence. Would you look at that? Now that that hand is done, we check to make sure the cup still fits, which thankfully it does. That means it's finally time to move on to the head, which is going to be an adventure. My whole vision so far has been based on the body, and I have absolutely no plan for the face, so yeah. It's a real swap from the usual huge head shtick. But as I look at it, I'm thinking of an orcish vibe, paired with a classic Karen haircut, so that's the goal. We'll see if we actually get anywhere close, or if it works at all. Who knows? We start by carving into the face to shape it out, and this is always fun because I have a bad habit of making the aluminum base too thick, so I end up digging or sometimes drilling into it to remove some of the metal. One of these days I'll learn. Maybe. I don't know, probably not. Maturing is overrated. Anywho, I want her to have a big lower jaw with tusk-like teeth, mouth wide open like she's yelling at some poor retail manager who dared to suggest she wait in line. But before the teeth, we tackle the eyes, which have to look completely unhinged. eyes that look like they're literally vibrating from the caffeine and just pure Black Friday rage coursing through her veins. So I give her some crazy raised eyebrows and hope it pushes that look of unprovoked hostility that just screams, I came here for one thing and I'm leaving with everything. I then give her a nose that unintentionally makes her look like Statler and Waldorf, and then shove a little tongue into her mid-bargain battle screaming mouth. Then we shove in the teeth, which ended up being this happy little mix of normal human teeth, some fangs, and a couple tusks. I couldn't really decide which direction to go here, so I just went with option D, all of the above. Next, I slap on some lips that have way too much filler, scratch in a few details, and then send it in the oven for the first bake. After baking, I took a look at her and decided she could use a few more wrinkles and signs of aging, like someone who spends way too much time in the tanning beds and sneers at the word sunscreen. So I added some fresh clay to her cheeks and then carved away at her face. I also slapped some bacon bond on her chin and scratched away at it with this kind of Thanos vibe to suggest years of smoking. Even though the Beast of Black Friday swears she's never smoked a day in her life and genuinely believes her perfume completely masks the smell. With the head mostly done, we need to make it fit to the body a little better instead of just kind of floating there like a bobblehead. To connect it to the body, we build up her neck and traps a bit so her neck is now basically the equivalent of a men's size 40 waist. We carve out the basic shape of some muscles and then smooth everything out before adding some extra dramatic wrinkles to the shirt and then send it off to the oven for one final bake. Next comes the hair, and we're going for a classic Karen, let me speak to your manager type of haircut. It cost her like $400 every 4 weeks, and it just screams annoying entitlement. You know, unintentionally, it kind of looks like that little girl from Matilda's hair, which I guess is cute on a kid, but on our monster, not so much. Anyway, at about this point, I decided she needed horns, so I drilled a hole in her head and then stuck a little armature wire in there for support before twisting on a cone of clay. Then I repeated the process on the other side, but made that horn broken, because she is waging war on Black Friday after all, and nobody, not even the Beast, walks out of Best Buy unscathed. With the horns in place, I add some little snakes of hair around the base of the horn to try to help it look like it's actually coming out of her head, then use some alcohol to soften the clay before scratching in some lines to imply strands of hair. And with that, the Beast is built. The only thing that's left to sculpt is the base, which I'm keeping simple, basically a dirty department store floor. So I flattened some Sculpey into thin sheets and cut it to fit the wooden base. Then I glued the sheets down and flattened out the seam as much as I could before cramming the Beast's feet onto their place so that the width of the clay sheets wouldn't affect how the Beast sits on the base. After that, took a ruler and pressed it down to make grooves in a checkerboard pattern to suggest tiles. With that done, I tossed the base and the head back into the oven for the very final bake of the project. Now that everything is baked and hard, we can finally put it all together and take a look at the monster for the very first time, just to realize we made a very beefy William Dafoe. Awesome. Now we're ready for paint, so I hit the face and arms with some pinkish skin tones and then the clothes with a black that turned out way too glossy. But it is just a primer layer, so don't worry, we'll knock that shine down here shortly so she doesn't look like she's wearing some nasty trash bag. I mean, the Beast of Black Friday only wears designer brands, like Hefty. Next, we focus on the face, which is looking a bit rough. Turns out I probably should have smoothed the clay out way more before baking, but the Beast of Black Friday isn't known exactly for her radiant glow, so we're rolling with it. I tried pushing her makeup pretty hard, like almost to Ronald McDonald levels, to shift her away from that William Dafoe look. But doing so actually made her look more like Samantha from Dungeon Crawler Carl, which kinda works. After we make the makeup good and obnoxious and the teeth mildly coffee stained, we move on to the hair, starting with a brown base coat and then dry brushing some blonde on top because, of course, she highlights. We brush on some pan pastels to make her cheeks look just a little bit more rosy and then repeat that same coffee stained teeth color onto the horns. Lastly, we painted some tiny eye veins because this beast has absolutely been awake for 48 hours at this point. With the face wrapped up, it's time to deal with the way too glossy shirt. Right now, it looks like she's wearing some faux leather from a clearance bin, and that's just definitely not her vibe. So I tested a few different paints on her back, just in little patches, until I found the perfect one that knocks the shine way down. I thought about leaving that faux leather look for her yoga pants, but then my wife vetoed that and said there's absolutely no way the beast is leaving her layer without some sort of animal print. So cheetah print it is. After that, I sketched on the text for her t-shirt and then hit it with some copper scale model paint to give it a shiny, festive, look at me vibe. After that, I add some yellows, blues, and reds to her skin to break up the flat airbrush layer and make it look more like actual believable skin. Not the healthiest skin, but more like skin that survived years of sun poisoning and is mildly stained by self-tanner. Then we apply a nice layer of pink to her slippers because just like Mermaid Man, the beast does not go anywhere without her fuzzy pink slippers. The last thing to paint is the base, so I taped off the edges to keep them black and then slapped on a typical beige color and nastied it up a bit to get that classic old department store look. You know, the kind that says we just mopped it this morning, but you'd never actually know. I thought we were just about done, but then I decided that the beast needed claws. But not like normal monster claws, more like the talons that women on TikTok use to dramatically tap on stuff. After that, I added some UV resin to the eyes and lips to make them look glossy. And finally, the Beast of Black Friday is done and ready to assemble so she can go forth and emotionally ruin some innocent retail workers. So this beast definitely had a lot more going on than my usual projects, but sometimes you gotta step out of your comfort zone even if the end result looks like whatever that is. So thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you want to see what kind of nonsense we tackle next. And that's all for this one. The beast is satisfied, the chaos is over for now. We'll see you in the next one.